Good day, it is Althea from the Bible in 1 Year. Today we spend time in Exodus 15 when God provides. Israel left Egypt as the Lord commanded in chapter 13 and 14, only to soon find themselves trapped in front of the Red Sea with the Egyptian army closing in fast. First, God shields Israel with the cloud in chapter 14, verse 19. Then God split the sea, and they escaped through the sea on dry ground. Then God dealt with the Egyptian army and left no survivors. Israel saw firsthand the great power of the Lord. This brought a reverence and awe-filled respect and fear for the Lord on them, and they believed the Lord. From their hearts flow spontaneous songs of gratitude, praise, and worship, with a deep realization that all glory belongs to the Lord, because He and He alone saved them. In chapter 15, Israel expressed their gratitude for being alive, for experiencing firsthand the God of war, fighting on their behalf, for recognizing that for the first time in 430 years they are free. God kept His promise and miraculously worked a miracle for them. Their song was all about God, nothing about man, nothing about Moses, Aaron, or themselves. They sang, "The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation, and the Lord is my warrior." Verse 2 to 3. In songs they described His skills and power that shatters the enemy. They knew that the fight was impossible to win in their own power. Therefore they gave credit where credit was due, with songs of expression and great joy. God exhibits His mighty power over the false gods of Egypt with the 10 plagues in chapter 7 to 11. Therefore Israel sings about the power that they have witnessed firsthand against the Egyptian gods in verse 11 to 13. The plagues affected only the Egyptians and their animals, and had no effect on Israel and their animals. Then they sang about the fearful God that gripped all the other surrounding countries. Not only had God saved them from the Egyptians, but no other nation had the boldness to stand before Israel after this, in verse 14 to 16. They sang about the fulfillment of God's promise to bring them into the promised land in verse 17. It is important for us to notice that worship should proclaim the splendor and superiority of God. Worship should give all honor to God. Worship is from a place of gratitude and thanksgiving. Moses led Israel in an unusual way through the wilderness, not through the major trade route in verse 22, as per God's instruction in chapter 13, verse 18. In the wilderness, God tested them, verse 25. God's commands are like a test. Passing the test lies in obedience. Soon after, when they found only bitter water in the wilderness, they forgot their victories and started to grumble. Israel turned from worshipping nation to a complaining nation. Moses called on the Lord for a solution. With a direct act of divine provision from God, He showed Moses a tree. It is believed that when Moses threw the branch in the water, the sap started a chemical reaction that caused the high mineral content to settle to the bottom, making the undrinkable water sweet and drinkable. Even though Israel was not faithful to God, God remained faithful to them. Mara reminds that if we stop trusting God, we allow bitterness to poison our lives. God offered them His commandments. Listen diligently, pay attention to my voice. Do what is right in my sight. Listen to my commandments. Actively obey all precepts and statutes. God's promise to an obedient Israel is that the diseases of Egypt will not come on them. For I am the Lord who heals you, verse 26. Obedience to God free us from stress and anxiety that cause diseases. After Mara, Israel reached Elim, a place with the 12 springs of water and 70 date palms. After their exodus and journey through the wilderness, Israel needed an oasis to rest and rejuvenate. Elim is a reminder of God's faithfulness and assurance, a tangible demonstration of God's care and provision. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 8 in the Amplified read, "And God is able to make all grace, every favor and earthly blessing come in abundance to you, so that you may always, under all circumstances, regardless of the need, have complete sufficiency in everything, being completely self-sufficient in Him, and have an abundance for every good work and act of charity." God provides more than enough, enough to bless others too. Sadly, Israel again forgets this in the next chapter. Elim was also a place of preparation for the challenges ahead. This chapter teaches us to trust and rely on God, to follow closely in obedience, to worship in joy and thanksgiving, to know that He knows the way through every possible circumstance. When God leads, nothing is out of order. May you be blessed. Goodbye.